Thank you, Rabbi. To everyone here and on Zoom, Lashana Tova Umetuka. So great to see so many people in here. As we embark on 5782, as the Rabbi said, we're compelled to tell you how lucky you are as a congregation. For the next 2 years, you get 2 presidents for the price of 1. You should know that Jamie and I have graciously agreed to share the president's lucrative salary 50-50, which is interesting because we seem to be sharing the responsibility 75-75, so it's a bargain really for all of you. But being the first co-presidents in CBE's history, we really don't have a playbook for how to do this. We're still kind of figuring some things out and feeling our way through things, and I'm not only talking about who gets to answer the call when somebody needs a fourth for Mahjong, so feel free to call either of us, that's fine. But throughout the high holidays, we've thanked and will continue to thank many people for the work they do, you all do, to make this community possible. But to start, we'd like to start by thanking two people. Immediate past President David Lears, who's here somewhere, I think. There he is. David, thank you for all your support during the peaceful transition of power, as well as your service to the congregation as president during a time of great uncertainty. I'm sure it will be lost on no one that even 2 people are struggling to fill your shoes. And we like to thank Rabbi Mike for his partnership, his passion, and his support the past several months, and we look forward to building on that going forward. I would also like to thank my co-president, Jamie. You are a warm and caring collaborator and leader. You help keep me balanced, focused, and laughing, which is a crucial part of this job. And we were great friends before this little adventure, and I'm happy to report that a whole 124 days into the job, that friendship is stronger than ever. It's my honor to serve this community with you.
Don't worry, I'll get to thanking Chuck later. Last night, we heard from Rabbi Mike about the value Kol Yisrael Aravim Ze Bazeh. All Jews are responsible for one another. I'm sure we have all grappled with what this means. We heard a few ways of thinking about this last night. First of all, as said last night, all of our members who form our Jewish community, whether Jewish or not, are included in the concept of Kol Yisrael, the Jewish people. As we understand it, all Jews are responsible for one another does not indicate that we are not responsible for those not part of our Jewish community. Many of our other Jewish values demonstrate our commitment to treating all humans as being created in God's image, to repairing the world, not just our little piece of it. Our CBE family proves this in so many ways. When Sarah Levine sewed and delivered face masks for group residence homes, when Barbara Frank Michelson continued organizing community supper at Mount Calvary throughout the pandemic, when Sue Abrams drives immigrants to court and ICE appointments. However, the concept of all Jews are responsible for one another is a call to strengthening the bonds within our community.
Rabbi Mike Strauch last night reminded us of the recognition within Judaism that this, here, is a communal endeavor. We see community everywhere at CBE, regardless of whether you're here in the sanctuary or home on Zoom. It all starts right here. Last year, we thought it was difficult to move high holiday services online, but this year we discovered that hybrid services were much more challenging, the best and the most complicated of both worlds at the same time. Consider the work that's been done by Rabbi Mike, Cantor Sarah, our ritual chair, Elaine Braun-Keller, and of course, Judy Kramer, together with the choir, Cindy Silverman and Mike Stark, to create services that reach everyone and create days which truly bring us a sense of awe. We cannot begin to describe the Herculean tasks accomplished by our amazing synagogue administrator, Shoshana Zuckerman, our dedicated clergy assistant, Lori Lafayette, and our VP of programming, Leslie Knight. Think of all the physical and technical setup that has been planned and executed using the expertise of tireless operations worker George Morton with on-site help from Danny Martyr. But it's not just for high holidays that our congregation demonstrates Kol Yisrael Aravim Ze Bazeh. We see this in the weekday mincha minyan, try saying that, which joins most days to provide a community check-in for some and support mourning for others. We see these bonds when congregants show up on Zoom for Shiva, even after a full day of staring into a camera for work. We see this when a small army of congregants magically appears to assemble and deliver goodies for Hanukkah and Purim to all CBE members. We see this when our clergy, staff, and lay leaders go above and beyond to ensure that B'nai Mitzvah can be celebrated safely in backyards.
We take responsibility for one another in a moment when many people are tempted to look out only for themselves. In contrast, our COVID task force, now led by Neil Silverman, has met every 1 to 2 weeks for the last 18 months, discussing extremely complex issues and making difficult, emotionally charged decisions about how to keep our community active while keeping us all safe, especially our most vulnerable congregants. We take responsibility for one another through the efforts of our Chesed Committee. At a time when people were panic-stricken with the haphazard process of scheduling their COVID vaccines, our Chesed Committee, under the leadership of Emily Blumberg, reached out to congregants to offer assistance. They scheduled vaccines and even arranged transportation to ensure that no one was left behind. Their efforts were so successful that they were able to take what they learned and assist countless people in the wider community in receiving a COVID vaccine. We take responsibility for each other's well-being in other ways as well. Former ELC Director Susan Perry and current ELC Director Wendy Damsty, along with Les Kramer, showed up for our preschoolers and their families, making sure they had safe, high-quality early childhood education. As we held our collective breath, they executed a nurturing preschool program while instituting strict COVID safety protocols with no transmissions of COVID last year.
Beth Goldstein and our amazing religious school teachers, with incredible support from Lindsay Roseman and the school committee, showed up to create an enriching virtual religious school supplemented with creative outdoor gatherings to foster community for our children and young families. As if this wasn't enough, Rabbi Mike and Beth showed up to create our first confirmation program in many years as our 10th graders reaffirmed their commitment to Judaism and their Jewish community. Adult education took responsibility for our intellectual growth, moving exciting speakers and enriching classes online. Sisterhood and Brotherhood showed up with countless opportunities to connect socially, with virtual book groups, wine and bourbon tastings, and breakfast speakers, in person with outdoor movie gatherings, knitting for a cause, and hiking. NAASE showed up for one another as well as the wider community, working on responses to anti-Semitism and racism, feeding the hungry, and standing up for justice everywhere.
Many of you, here in person and on Zoom, have showed up for other Jews, have showed up for this community. We, along with our dedicated membership committee, led in the past by Randy Taylor and currently by Frank and Linda Cohen, are proud to welcome new and returning members, people who joined a synagogue in a pandemic, people who knew that their initial experience of CBE would be quite different. They saw the value in being part of this community, in being part of this communal mission, and committed their support. We welcome and welcome back Marilyn Leeds and David Salomon, Rob and Carrie Lindemann with Midori, Momoko, and Akira, Elizabeth Deutsch and Brian Rosen with Annika, Ari, and Zane, Edward and Nancy Kleiman, Nicole and Edward Silver with Imogen and Tobias, Sarah Levitsky and Ryan Hartman, Deanna Carlton and Gil Prop, Matthew Velo, Mara and Jonathan Epstein with Hannah, Lily, and Sophia, Rainey Stanford and Jack Mestel, Irene and Philip Waxler, Alyssa and Hal Jacobs with Andrew, Gabriel, and Joshua, Jessica Rosenblatt and Taylor Curtis with Aaron and Solomon, Stacy and Ken Walker with Grace and Avi. If any of these new members or other new-ish members are here in person today, please stand up. And if you're on Zoom, use the raise hand feature to identify yourselves. We are so fortunate to have you as part of our community. Welcome, and please welcome them. How do we continue to embody the value of Kol Yisrael Aravim Zeh Bazeh? All Jews are responsible for one another. What will that mean in 5782, a year which has started with such anxiety, such uncertainty? We think it means that our community needs to be stronger than ever. We need to continue to take care of one another and step up to help one another. We are so stressed, so stretched. How do we make this happen? It's simple. We do what we can.
When preparing to write these remarks, Jamie and I asked Rabbi Mike for some pointers. One of the key things he suggested was to make it personal. Tell a story that people connect with. Intuitively, that made sense, and we set aside some time to talk about our big stories. But when we sat down to think about it, we stared at each other for a bit, shrugged, and admitted that neither one of us felt like we had a great story to tell. We laughed about that for a bit, but as we talked about our own experiences, about how we each started giving to this community, a light bulb started to glow. You see, our stories aren't big stories, nothing grandiose. Instead, they're really quite simple, but as we discovered, also perfect. My story starts about 15 years ago when I really didn't know anybody at CBE. I more or less tagged along with Lauren to a sisterhood event at the Acton Jazz Cafe, where I met a group of sisterhood members and a couple of their spouses. Soon after, we attended a Share Shabbat dinner at the warm and welcoming home of Dennis and Linda Friedman, where we met more people. Soon after that, one of those people came up to me at a Friday night oneg to say hello. Then others did the same thing at an oneg maybe a few weeks later. And soon, merely familiar faces became friendly faces. And friendly faces that started to greet Lauren and Sarah and Sam and me whenever we showed up to a CBE event. Eventually, someone asked me to get involved with something. It didn't have to be anything big, she explained. There are many ways to get involved. And you should know, Sue Wachter, that I really appreciated being asked. Thank you for reaching out. So I accepted that invitation, and at the time took on a member-at-large position on the board, which led to a pretty full CBE resume over the years, including a CBE board member, a Brotherhood board member, a Spieler, one and done, sorry, an event planner, an event helper, a softball coach, go Tribe, an usher, working the prize table at the Perm Carnival, which might be my favorite one actually, of all of them, and, well, look at me now. So, Sue, I don't know whether to thank you or blame you, but thank you.
My story is similarly simple. When I joined CBE with a kindergartner and a preschooler many years ago, I checked the box that I'd be interested in school committee. Those of you who served with me on school committee at that time can attest that I was a pretty lackluster member. I came to meetings when I could. I brought bagels for teacher appreciation brunches. We contributed to an oneg or two. Once, we were asked to host an Israeli-themed dinner, so we did. As the years passed, my family made many connections at CBE through the school, sisterhood and brotherhood, and of course, the Purim spiel. Way too many, more than one. 10? I don't know. Ish? Yeah? All right. As our lives changed, our interests and ability to contribute changed too. So when I was asked to step up and serve as school committee co-chair, then education director search committee chair, and then VP of education in somewhat rapid succession, I said yes. Finally, when I was asked to be president, I said, absolutely not, are you crazy? But then I was asked to come on board with Chuck as co-president, and I said, actually, that sounds pretty wonderful. And forgive me the brief tangent here, said I'd come back to it, in saying that this has already become such a fun, meaningful, productive partnership. Chuck, thank you for working with me, making me laugh, and keeping me sane. Thank you for making it possible for me to give back to this community in this co-capacity. We are by no means saying that your road will or should lead to the board, and certainly not the CBE presidency. Although if you're interested, we hear there will be an opening or two in a few years. The point is this, it's not complicated. It's actually very simple to live out our values, to demonstrate that all Jews are responsible for one another. If you're involved, reach out to someone, introduce yourself, learn something about them, invite them to join you for an event or a service. Sometimes that's all it takes to get someone involved, to make them feel welcome and part of the community. If you're not yet involved, or if it's been a while, and someone asks you to help or be involved with something, know that we welcome you, we want you, and we need you for this community to survive and thrive. Start small, maybe with a friend, attend something. When you get that email from Hospitality Chair Marcy Hoban asking for a greeter or Zoom host, try to say yes. When Chesed asks for a meal for a congregant in need, try to say yes. Offer to Zoom host that adult education session you thought looked pretty interesting. Attend one of the many Sukkot gatherings listed on our website and on the flyer in the community court. Or bring a picnic, enjoy klezmer music, and dance with the Torahs on Simchat Torah. Remember, even simple can be impactful. Kol Yisrael Aravim Zeh Bazeh. We are responsible for one another.
You will all soon receive the annual mailing kicking off the High Holiday Appeal. You know it's coming. It does every year, and this year will not disappoint. In that letter, you will read about a values-based campaign conceptualized by our super creative VP of Development, Emil Ray. You'll have the opportunity to nominate CBE heroes, whom we will recognize throughout the year in the Starlight. As part of that appeal, you will have the opportunity to honor those heroes with donations. Please think of those people who have shown up for us, or maybe just you. Maybe your hero is someone that we've mentioned already, or maybe they're sitting a couple of seats away, or for the people on Zoom, maybe in the next box. Nominate them and support our community in their honor. Kol Yisrael Aravim Zeh Bazeh. Yes, it applies to financial giving too. Taking pride in sustaining this Jewish community is part of that value. Of course, we're hoping to reach our monetary goals so we can continue to provide the needs for the needs of this community. We seek 100% participation in this appeal because every contribution is valuable, no matter the size. Every contribution demonstrates a commitment to be responsible to your Jewish community. Yet, Kol Yisrael Aravim Zeh Bazeh applies more, as Rabbi Mike mentioned last night, to how you show up for your community. We hope for 100% financial participation, but the true measure of this community will be how we show up for each other in the years to come. As Rabbi Mike said, our lives are richer, more meaningful, fully dimensional when we're in community.
We realize that this means different things to different people. We each have our own interests, our own needs, our own passions. Some of you may be looking for a Jewish early childhood experience or a religious education for your children. Others may want more adult education or cultural experiences. You may feel drawn toward Tikkun Olam and long for a community with whom to work toward social justice. Yet others may be looking for a social outlet. Or maybe you have a lot going on right now and have other priorities. That's okay, because if all of us do our part to sustain this community and maintain its vibrancy, then we'll be here waiting for you when you're ready to jump back in. Our connection to CBE is relational, not transactional. We are here because we believe in this Jewish community and that we are responsible for one another. It's not enough for each of us to support the community when we need something. We must support this community because we know that others need something. May you each be inscribed for a good year. L'shana tova.
Shana Tova.